Hey guys, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. My name is Nicole and I am a Scrum Master. And today's topic, we're going to talk about how does a Scrum Master keep track on the sprint progress? How do you know that the work that your team committed to do for that sprint, how do you know how things are progressing? How do you know how things are going? How do you know if they're on track with your sprint commitment? So let's say if you're working on a 2-week sprint and your sprint has just started. So what really happens? The first thing that happens in your sprint is you guys are going to have your sprint planning meeting, which is a meeting that your whole entire Scrum team is going to come together to select the work that they are trying or wants to deliver in that sprint. So the whole team is going to come together to select the work that they are going to be delivering for that particular sprint. So doing your sprint planning, the team members are going to select the work, and by the time they leave the meeting, they're going to assign those user stories to themselves. So let's say your team members had, they're committed to a certain number of user stories with story points. How do you know how things are progressing in the sprint? There are a few ways for you to find out how sprint is progressing. The first thing that you actually want to do is make sure that you schedule all your stand-up meetings. Your stand-up is very important because this meeting helps your team or helps you, the Scrum Master, know how the sprint is progressing. The whole purpose of having your daily stand-up is for your entire development team members to come together to see how work is progressing. During your stand-up meeting, your team members will usually answer 3 questions. What did they work on yesterday? What they're planning on doing today? And if they're having any impediments. This meeting really helps you to identify any challenges that your team members may have, or just to see if they're on track or if they're not on track with their sprint commitment. So when I'm actually in the daily stand-up, I usually just go around the room, get updates from each of my team members, and I'm just literally listening to them as they're giving their update to see if I can identify any challenges that they're facing, and also to see how their work is progressing, if they're having any difficulties, any challenges, any blockers. They'll tell you during the daily stand-up. You can try to get them the help. If you have to set up a meeting with somebody else to get them the help they need, you can go ahead and do that. But it's important to have that daily stand-up meeting because it really just helps you to know how the sprint is progressing, if anyone's having any challenges. Another way to find out how the sprint is progressing is simply by looking at the dashboard. If you're using Jira, you can actually set up your dashboards in Jira. If you join a team and they don't have a dashboard set up already, it's important that you do that. Set up a dashboard, and once you set up your dashboard, make sure that you add the different gadgets, right? It pretty much help you to know like the overall health of your team, of your sprint, or overall, you can see the overall status of your sprint on the dashboards. So when you set up dashboards, there are different statistics that whatever you want to see, you can add that on the dashboard once you're setting it up. On your dashboard, you can see the burn down charts, you can see the burn up, you can see the velocity, you can see the overall sprint health. There's so many things you can see there. So during the daily stand-up, what I normally do is I normally will share my dashboard screen, and I just simply go over the burn down chart with the team. The burn down pretty much, it will show you what is remaining in the sprint, right? So let's say your team committed to a certain number of user stories. Once you look at the dashboard, it will pretty much show you the user stories that are still on the board. It will show you what the team is still working on, what has not been delivered yet. Also, you can see the burn up, right? The burn up obviously show you what has been achieved, or the work that the team, they have already completed. You can also see that on the dashboard. So there's so many things, like I said, you can see on your dashboard, and that's pretty much, those are the things that actually help me in terms of knowing how the sprint is progressing, by just looking at the dashboard, see how things are on the dashboard, how things are going, and by also attending the daily stand-up, listening to the team members with the challenges that they're facing, It really helps me to help my team to get them results on time so they can deliver their work on time. Another way to know how your sprint is progressing is pretty much your retrospective. Retrospective is so important. I love retrospective because it gives your team members the opportunity to voice their concern. It gives them the opportunity to speak up. During the retrospective, your team comes together to pretty much talk about what went well during the sprint that's ending, what did not go well, and then they come together as a team and come up with action items for continuous improvement, right? We come in there to see how things went during the sprint, so the team they'll tell us how the sprint went. They'll literally write those data on the retrospective boards. They'll tell us at least one thing from each person how the sprint went, one thing from each person that they didn't like about the sprint that they feel like they can improve on, and then we gather action items so we can improve our processes. So I really love that retrospective because it really helps us to know way to move forward. If we have to make some adjustments based on what the team members are saying, we can now go ahead as a team and decide on the things that we want to adjust so we can do better. Like I said, the whole purpose of your retro is for your team to continue to improve, right? We should continue to improve better than our previous sprint. That's why we are going to keep having our retrospective meeting at the end of our sprint. Another way to see or to know how your sprint is progressing is pretty much just having looking at your velocity. Your velocity also is really important. That's another important matrix that I like to look at. The velocity pretty much, you look at it at the end of your sprint. So once your sprint ends, once you go on Jira and end your sprint, you're going to be able to see the report, right? You pretty much can just click on the report. And on your report, on your sprint report, you will see the velocity chart. On the velocity chart, you can see what your sprint was able to deliver, how many story points they were able to complete in that particular sprint. So your velocity will show you the story points that your team were able to deliver from the different sprint, from the other sprint that has passed, right? And the way you calculate your velocity is to simply just add the past 3 sprint number of story points that they were able to deliver. Add those numbers divided by 3. If you're doing the past 3 sprints, you will get an average. This average is going to help you to know how much work your team should commit to in the next sprint. So the velocity just helped me to know how much work or how many story points my team should accept in our next sprint when we go to our next sprint planning. So again, those are the few things that I look at in terms of knowing how my sprint is progressing or how the sprint went. Just make sure that you also do some of those things that will really help you in terms of like making sure that things are going well with your team. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you do have any other topic, any comment, please leave them below and don't forget to subscribe. You can leave me a message at nicole.agilepractitioner@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for your time, and I will see you guys soon.